Work is changing, and most of us are experiencing it before we fully understand it. Welcome to the Emerging Work Podcast. This is a podcast about how work is shifting, what's worth paying attention to, and what it means for people building and leading organizations today. I am your host, Bukola. Let's dive into it. Today, we're talking about how AI and humans are starting to work together in real organizations where processes and data are not always perfect. Joining me today is Pedro, someone who has worked in enterprise environment, is using data and intelligence to support decision making, and now building AI and making it simple and accessible to SMEs. So we will unpack more about his experience, and he's going to give some practical examples on AI and what he's doing later on when he introduces himself. But without further ado, let's get into it. Welcome, Pedro.
Thank you, Bukola, for the invitation. Yeah, a pleasure to be able to share my perspectives here. So as you said, my name is Pedro. I'm originally from the Dominican Republic. The reason why I say that is, I think that that's something that has shaped a lot of how I think and why I'm very keen, enthusiastic about like making technology accessible.
Yeah.
So I'm actually the co-founder of AI Systems Engineering, AISYNG, and we're a startup that we're building a business operating system based on AI. Basically, as you mentioned, we want to ensure that SMEs have access to like the best tools on the trade at the moment and ensuring that they can do the work more efficiently.
Perfect. That sounds really good. Great. I'm glad you've introduced yourself there. Thank you very much. So, what I want to ask you now, why do you think really it's important for us to really talk about future of work? And when you hear future of work, what comes to your mind?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. And for me, I can just refer back, let's say, even before I was just working full time on my startup, but in my previous two roles in different companies in terms both in tech, I remember being part of, let's say, the data organization, like data analytics, data engineering organizations, and sometimes me talking about AI, the not let's say you always had like the data science team or the machine learning team working on the algorithms to have it tool, but outside of that, you will talk about AI and people you will see like this, not even resistance, more like, oh yeah, it doesn't work, or it was like this intention just to prove that the AI doesn't work. And for me, after 2022, with the release of ChatGPT,
yeah.
for me, it's like what I've listened multiple times on multiple conversations. It's like it was that moment that I said, "Oh wow!" Actually, if I expand a little bit of that, I remember my first experience with like now production or public ChatGPT. It was December, I think December 8th or something like that was released, 2022. The reason why I remember is because I was visiting back. I was that day or that I was flying back to the Dominican Republic with a family to spend Christmas there, and so basically you fly London to Punta Cana. It's a 9-hour flight, and then from Punta Cana to Santo Domingo, it's like a 2-hour plus drive. And I remember me like after we got into the car that we were driving, asking my mother like, "Hey, can you hotspot? Can you give me your hotspot, please? Because I want to test something." And she's like, "Oh, sure." I take my phone, connected on her phone, and on those 2 hours, I think I consumed I don't know how many gigabytes of data. I was just like prompting,
testing it out,
right, and like testing it out. And suddenly, I remember like, okay, let me see if you can do I don't know, a rollout plan or an evaluation plan of these three tools, and these are the challenges. Like, and suddenly I was just seeing like ChatGPT just giving me a very detailed plan, and me thinking like, wow, this took us like 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and I'm just doing this in minutes. So that means that I can just iterate as much as I can until I refine them. So for me, when I saw that, And then obviously I am Dominican Republic, talking with friends and family in the industry, multiple seniority levels, and nobody had an idea that this was already released.
Working, yeah.
And for me, I'm very passionate just to talk to people and make people aware of like the way that I used to say that, and then just to connect to that. I moved to the United Kingdom back in 2017 because in 2016 I was working on some projects in a multinational company that was working a beverage company, and we were doing some linear regression modeling to answer a business question, right? And I went through all the data preparation. We needed to understand like how different products and marks and brands played out versus our competitors in multiple regions of the Dominican market. And I remember like the day that we saw the output after obviously weeks of work, that we had like that playbook that we could know, oh, this brand, we should put effort, money on this because this one plays out the market share of this other brand, things like this. I got hooked, right? That was like my first aha moment. I said, oh, wow. So now we created all these formulas that gives us this strategic direction. And then I kept then learning more about it. And what happened was that I found first it was in a podcast, and then I started reading a book. So I've been consuming podcasts since like 2013, 14. That was how I survived like all the traffic jams, like driving everywhere in Santo Domingo. I remember the first podcast that I discovered was like the Tom Ferris podcast. But for me, it was amazing because it's like that format of there was a big thinker. He would talk about a topic that imagine nobody in my sphere will be talking about. And then suddenly they will do, oh, by the way, this is a book that I recommend, or they will talk about someone else. So I created a habit of from an episode, I would like jot down who they recommended or who they mentioned, and I will kept like doing that investigation. Let me hear. And there was one episode I remember about there was somebody being interviewed, Peter Diamandis, and he was the founder of the Singularity University. Imagine listening in 2013 an episode, or 2013, no, 2016. There's people talking on a podcast about space mining, okay, and how to harvest solar light in space and send. I'm like, oh wow, what's this? So I got like one book of him. It was called Bold, and in that book it said, one day in the not so far future, there's gonna be systems like AI systems working alongside employees. This was like 2016. I just continued like in that thread, and wow, this is amazing. I always remember coming back to the office one day, like very early. I tried to be one of the first ones to join in, and me like walking into the office and say, okay, I can see AI here. I can see AI here. And that was my inspiration for it. And then when I told everyone, look, I'm gonna quit my job, and I'm gonna move to any country that I find a way to enter into this market, because I always said that the wave is coming. I just want to be like surfing the wave, not the wave to like splashing me out to the shore. And that's how I got excited about this. And for me, when the ChatGPT moment, I know it's a couple of years forward, but for me it was the same. Like for me it was unreal that still multiple years after, you had ChatGPT like on release that everyone had access, and people were saying, hey, what are you talking about? I mean, is it accurate? I'm like, well, it depends. And I will just want like a lot of sprints of just explaining people like, look, you can do this and you can do this other thing. But yeah,
it's quite interesting to hear what your experience. And in terms of future work, so you believe that it's really important that people understand what is coming and what it can actually do for you. Just like you said, you just things that are taking you hours to do. You just in a car, in a taxi, on a car from an airport, you were able to really pull something up, which is really good. That's the future that we're looking at, I guess.
Yeah, and for me, why it's important, because I I was with the family doing some showcase about, hey, this is Aurora, this is the product that we're building at AISYNG, and I'm just showing around and I'm explaining like potential outcomes and how a company can benefit from our product. And I remember there was a phrase saying, "Oh yeah, but people won't think." Like there's that thing like, what are people gonna do? Like it's like it will happen. Like people will get somehow like, I don't know, dumber because now they don't have to think. And I always try to flip that answer into, actually, it's not that. It's that the problems that you can tackle with the systems are going to be bigger. So that means that the things that used to take us hours to complete, now you're going to do it in minutes. So that means that in an hour, maybe you can imagine that now you can sort out 6 months of problems in a week. And then as the systems begun, obviously there's the whole agentic AI discussion, and I will park that for later. I think now I would prefer just to talk about AI, like practical. Let's say you just have GPT-4 and that's it. Just with one of these LLM, the like mass market LLM now, if you think about it, email drafting. I always say a good example where people say, yeah, but the thing is now everything is AI generated, and people are thinking and content. And I always refer to one example. Apologies for the naming. I think it's The Last Hour. The Churchill, that's a Winston Churchill movie. Yeah, the one about the end of the Second World War. Where it's a whole movie that happens in the bunker, right? I think it's The Last Hours. There's one scene in that film that I always use it to explain people what LLM is. There's a scene that you have Sir Winston Churchill on his bathtub with a cigar, dictating to his assistant a speech that he's preparing for. She's sitting on a chair outside in the hallway, and he's on the bathtub with a cigar, and he's just talking. Hey, yeah, look, let's say this is phrase. No, that sounds too weak. Come on, delete it, do it again. And if you think about it, that's what an LLM is. When I give people that explanation, it's more palpable. It's like, oh, okay. I'm like, it's not a system that will take it. It's more like, now you have this tool that you can treat it this way. So sometimes it will get it wrong, but sometimes it will get it right. But if it gets wrong, whatever you want, you're like, just steer it into it. I don't know. That I love like using a palpable analogy sometimes because people like relate more. But it's like riding a horse. For those who haven't ridden horses, in a way, what happens with a horse? If you think about riding a horse, it's something that I always try to. So I grew up in a family that, like, in the countryside, Dominican Republic. There was only horses around when I was growing up, and this. If you think the experience of riding a horse, so basically you as a human are sitting on an animal and having kind of like a nonverbal communication on, I want to get there, right? And in a way, with AI, you're having, and actually you're prompting a system to get to a destination. You want an output, right? So for me, this is something that, think about what that translates now into the workplace, right? So now with agents, that is, I would say, the new frontier, that there's a lot of conversations and topics. If you think about it, it's just like you're offloading some problems, again, very well defined problems, and you're just delegating them. And that in itself, it just shifts the whole landscape about how do we think about work.
Even prompting is a command, isn't it? When you write prompt, you are commanding the AI to do certain things for you. Depending on how you prompt, it will give you the output that is you require. So that's a really good point to me. And I like that analogy of Winston Churchill dictating his speech to his assistant, which is exactly what you're doing with ChatGPT. You're dictating exactly what you want to the LLM, and it's going to give you an output to what you require. And so in terms of your experience then, so you've worked with AI, you've worked with business owners, and you've build AI in your experience. What do you think, especially business owners, what do you think people are really getting wrong about AI at work?
That's a very broad question, I would say, for an answer. And is it right or wrong? It depends, right?
Okay.
It depends of the context. It depends of the business industry dynamics. So I would say like there's a lot of levels of one thing that is a common thread. If you think about, I don't have the statistic that I can pull from my mind now, but maybe I can make, if you can guess, and let's take it from there. How many businesses depend on information? If you think about, it's most of them, right?
Yeah.
Every business has some sort of
We all
transactions.
need
There's
information.
all these records, right?
Yeah.
Inventory, invoices, payments, accounts
Absolutely.
receivables,
It's a lot of
transactions,
data.
visit, right?
Yeah.
Just starting from there, that means that, okay, and even now, you can even be a, let's say, I don't know. I sometimes I create these like fictional companies in my head to stress test. Like, you can be a design agency.
Yeah.
And you have data because you have a portfolio and you have conversations with your customers and you have the outcome of it and you have what's the feedback about a particular, I don't know if it's a design proposal or a campaign proposal. So in a way, that's data, right? So if you think about it, it's like all these data points that now, the good thing is that it can be text data, it can be structured data, as I said, images, etc. The good thing is that we are at the stage that now, with the new generation of AI, you can process this very seamlessly, right?
Yeah.
For me, LLM is like a Swiss Army tool, right? It's like a one of these multi tools that you say. I got to make it even more palpable. I had a present from an uncle of mine. It's one of these Leatherman multi tools. It's amazing because it's like he gave it to me. It was a little bit rusty, and I took maintenance, and now it's like it's an original issue, like 1970 something. It's amazing, right? But again, it has a clipper. You can cut things. It has like a couple of foils. You can screw drive all this, right? What these LLMs are right now, it's essentially that.
Okay.
You can deploy whatever little feature that you want, right? But again, I'm just talking even like on the raw LLM, the fact that it's a conversation or it's an image or it's, and in businesses, even as an agency, there's a lot of things that you can just automate or delegate to AI. And then what happens? You say, okay, but I always like to connect that point. Now that I have AI, I can do everything in one fraction of the time. Let's say that it takes you 1/10 of the time to do things. There's then two ways of thinking. That one concerns me, and the other one is the one that I always try to advise business owners or let's say professionals on it. There's the maximalist view and the minimalist view.
Okay.
I want to deploy AI because by deploying AI, I'm going to save so much money that I'm going to cut my workforce by 80%. Okay. And I then have a follow-up question on that. Okay, that's great. So you optimize everything. But then how do you grow? What do you mean, how do you grow? What are you going to do with all that extra time? Because now you optimize your current state. It's like, this is your existing workload. And now you made it like this. And then you just cut off all the possibility to expand. That's a minimalist view that I always try to change that perspective of people. And there's the maximalist view. Oh, this is all the effort that I needed or resources to operate in a particular market. With AI now, it takes me this. So now that extra capacity, maybe now you can conquer 2 more geographies, or maybe you can now expand to 2 more categories. And I think that's what this is gonna generate now. This is for me. This is something that AI will enable now, and this is why the entire way that we work will change. And that's what I mean about work itself will change.
Yeah.
And we need to adapt to it. And then to embrace it is, I was doing an executive training a few months ago at the when I was working on Ocado. And I remember that I came up with a one phrase that I said, wow, this is an interesting one. I think it's for the first time in history that we have a technology that you can ask the technology how to use the technology.
Asking AI how to use AI.
Yeah.
You can.
So instead of reading the manual, you just, okay, ChatGPT, how can I use you effectively for this problem? And the AI will come up with something. And maybe you say, actually, I don't like that approach. Let's try, give me 5 more options.
Yeah.
And then it connects back to the analogy that I said about steering it. You can say, well, I don't like that approach because maybe this is not what I want, etc. So yeah.
Absolutely. We'll get more into detail probably in the next for that episode about how to use it effectively. But I like that maximalist and minimalist view that you just put there. It's about, you said about the maximalist: cut, grow, expand.
Yeah.
Or you could cut, grow, and just have nothing to do and just say, oh, I save time, I save money. But you can have a view where you'll say, okay, we can cut this specific area, optimize our process in this area, and that will leave some time and budget to expand into this or other area. Maybe something you've always wanted to do, but because of cost constraint or time constraint, you were not able to participate in that or complete it. You can now do that now. Really, and that's what the kind of the opportunity that is available using AI and automation. Great, I like that analogy.
And if I can give a short example, I can relate to that. I remember at the beginning of my career, I was typical. I mean, I'm saying typical, but most of my work was drowning in spreadsheets. I had to get the data from a system, do very complex analysis, sales forecasts and margin analysis, all of this. And I would spend hours and hours doing that. Then the ask was, Pedro, we need to update this presentation, this slide deck, because there's a meeting deadline Wednesday morning. So you had to do a lot of data wrangling to then lots of raw data, condense it into some nice outputs, put it into the slide deck. And then there will be a revision. Then you will go back, revise, etc. And then the meeting happened, the pre-meeting, all this. But if you think about it, it's like 80% of my time was just doing the thing, right? By the time that you got and sat back and you copy and pasted that chart or that result, somebody with a fresh mind will say, hey, did you notice that that's wrong? Oh, sorry. Yeah, these 3 slides, they don't match. Oh, okay, let me fix it. So you think about 90% of the time was just preparing the thing, and then 10% was actually sitting back. That minimalist and maximalist, it applies connects very nicely. Imagine now that you can generate the slide deck in minutes, and now you spend maybe, instead of the 80% of the time doing it, 20% is doing it. And you have 60% to think about it. Actually, what I was thinking of this angle, maybe I thought these other 2 angles, and this is what I think AI off the shelf right today brings to the table. It's like you're giving more time to teams to think maybe of different possibilities. So
yeah. Let's dwell on that a little bit. The opportunity that is within with this current landscape that we're in, the technology advancement that we're currently ongoing. You talked about using the time. We now have more time to think, right? I have been in organization where actually it's the opposite. It's the opposite. People are now using AI, seems to be they are outsourcing their thinking to AI. So instead of opportunity to actually sit back, think before you actually prompt the engineer, it's what, for example, I'm trying to think of an example here that works. What do you think about this or that? Or use AI to say, generate me. I've seen some people use generate an article about this. That's it. Without even checking or looking or making sure it's correct. And just say, oh, okay, that sounds good. Deploy it to whatever platform they want to deploy it into. Do you think, is that the way we should be using it? Or just to boil down to what you were saying before? Or do you think people should really it gives an opportunity for us to work with the AI, or we just assume that, you know what, I can just ask AI. Why do I need to think? I can just ask AI to just say, draft me this, write this, and it will just do it. And all I need to do is just copy, paste, and launch it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can relate a lot at the moment in my journey where I am in a early stage startup. So
Yeah.
I see a lot of companies. Oh yeah, fully assisted go to market
Yeah.
like service, right? I won't give my opinion because again, I
Yeah. Yeah.
met other colleagues in the space, but in the end of the day, we are humans, right? And human interaction, it's what wins. Imagine like this podcast that I send my avatar, you send your avatar, we give it some bullet points, and the AI just talk about
That
for
would be
an hour,
nice.
right? I don't think that would be very useful, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. When you were asking me the question, I'm thinking, I don't know. Again, coming back to analogies, I'm not sure if it's a car.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has access to the car, but you can go at 160 miles per hour, or you can just drive
Mm-hmm.
according to the speed limits, or you can just take the car loaded with. You see what I mean? It's like, in a way, that's what I will park that idea for a bit. Like, let's go around it. It's like you have the car that there's multiple ways to use it, right? There's multiple things to do it to it. So maybe there's people that say, "Oh, you're buying that car just to go to the groceries and back."
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe somebody says, "Oh, actually, I like my off-road big SUV because I like this color or this size." Why I'm making those examples and then coming back to AI? The most effective way, at least that I've experienced working with AI or people who I've seen it as well, the work, it's first you need the mindset. It's like you have to be very clear about what you outsource, what you don't outsource, and what you fit into the algorithm to do the work for you. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that connects a little bit back of somebody who doesn't even know about this and the whole builder's bias. That's something that I've been
Yeah.
like elaborated. I did a LinkedIn post on that this week. It's like as a build, if you understand how technology works and you understand and use it every day, it can very easy to say, oh yeah, that's obvious. Why do you
Yeah.
do X, Y, Z? But one thing that I become more and more aware while talking with like SMBs and not very technical people, it's there's at least that guidance of look, what you just mentioned about dual article for me, right?
Mm.
To be fair, if you know the messages that you want to do, and maybe imagine like how does typical writing an article look like, I don't know, 10 years ago. You went online,
Research.
you researched for hours, you saved
Mm.
all the research somehow, either physical magazine articles, you shop them up, you have like a whole folder of it. Then you
Mm.
sat down, read every single thing that you summarized, and you had different, well, not different perspective, you had your own opinions that you took at work. Then you wrote a draft, then you
Mm.
wrote a second draft, then potentially you ask someone else to give you opinion, and then you have the final and then you needed the final, right?
Yes. Yes.
For me, the right approach with, let's say, using LLMs is now gather your resources, like get all the good thing now with LLMs. You can just take full articles, full PDFs, books, like whatever you think it is,
Mm.
combine all of that. And maybe, I mean, this is more, I would say, like a recipe that I will encourage like listeners just to do. You want to simulate that you're writing an article about something that you're very passionate. I don't know. It could be woodworking, and you say, okay, let me find the best manual of best practices of woodworking. Let me see if like how to work with particular types of wood depending on the geography, whatever I want to build. And then there's like a tooling magazine.
Mm.
You can today just take, and again, I'm saying this example like things that I've been do. You can just take articles related to these topics. It can be transcripts, images, etc., and the whole thing. So that's like your portfolio of references.
Mm.
And you can even say, hey, AI, what did you find interesting here? What connects? And the LLM will do a really good job of at least taking the concepts from all of this and seeing what matches and what doesn't match. And then based on this, you can like take the bullet points and actually say, I like this direction. So imagine now it's not only one article, you can do multiple articles, but then you can even do the framing. Okay, give me an against and an against, in favor, or maybe something that I am missing. And when you do that journey, guess what? You're not just faking how to write an article, you're learning. And at least that's the approach that I take in that has been extremely useful for me. It gives me sometimes perspectives outside of even my own biases. So you can argue it. Now, are you asking advice for LLM for something? That's something I would say take it with a pinch of salt, right? But in terms of learning in this, yeah,
it's something a good learning tool. Okay,
it's extremely useful.
Yeah, definitely. So I think I quite like what you said there. It's not about just asking the LLM to just say, write this for me. You can actually take that process and as a business owner, as a professional, all the information that you have, input it, simulate it, and then start to prompt the LLM to synthesize and kind of test your hypothesis on those information.
If I may just to add a little bit there, and based on your what you just mentioned is, again, I'm gonna give my perspective, but from my perspective, remember, I'm somebody who I'm trying to be as much up to date as possible with what's going on in terms of the LLMs, development. So I remember one day in my previous role, again, now it's like 2 years ago, that I was talking in a chat about, hey, look, with ChatGPT, you can do this and this and this. And somebody, basically very senior, the answer of like, in Slack, like the thread of the comment of that was like, oh, look at this. And it was like a screenshot of somebody posted on X. Oh, ChatGPT, what's 2 + 2? 4. Are you sure? And the LLM said 3. It was a way of using that as an argument. Like, you see, it can be fooled.
Correct.
Right? It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because as human, there's like a bias to use stress test, like it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But the way that I describe you right now, you think about it, and that's something that I think we chart now the evolution of the LLMs. At the beginning, people were just asking the like ChatGPT, let's say, or the LLM for information about something. So it's like using the LLM as Wikipedia. Let's go that way, right? But you see very quickly, again, I cannot confirm it based on that, but this is my understanding of it. Very quickly, it shifts to now it can access the web. So now it just became a more intelligent way to go through resources. Then you think even now, that's how I use it a lot. I don't rely on the internal knowledge of the LLM. Context, it's the important thing.
It's very important, yeah.
So I think this is something that people need to be aware of, where this context is coming. Because you remember at the beginning I said, oh, I'm from the Dominican Republic. This is something I always stress for when I'm talking about technology. If you think about it, I'm gonna just, if I may, just give this analogy and then we extrapolated this.
Yeah.
Dominican Republic, third world economy. It's very advanced in a lot of things, but again, it's not the US, it's not like the UK or Europe or anything like this. My first language is Spanish, right? Python, it's written by English-speaking individuals, and the language Python, even the name, it's in English.
English, yes.
Most of the computer industry has been born in English-speaking countries, right? By English-speaking. So in a way, the amount of information or the amount of, let's say, you think of Python, right? Most of the documentation or GitHub repositories of things, let's say a programming language, it's just to give more context, are going to be in English. So that means that LLMs are fed. It's like if we do a proportion of what's the proportion of languages of the content that these algorithms are trained off, I think it's very obvious, right? You're going to see a lot of English and then the second language, third language, etc., and all this. So The reason why I mentioned that idea is because if you rely on the context of the LLMs, you're going to rely on a view of the, not of the world, but like your answer is going to be naturally biased. But it's, again, it's a technical thing. It's not
Yeah.
like the tool is designed for that. It's more like a gravitational thing, I would say. Now, when you take the LLM just to summarize, condense, reframe, or do something with the context that now you control the context, that's for me like, okay, that's another level.
I think I quite like that what you said there. It's about staying in control, not letting the LLM be the one in control. Because again, just as you said, it's mainly built in English, right? English has its own context. In fact, it has its own cultural context. It has its own language context. So people needs to be aware of that. Business owner needs to be aware of that. It's a really great tool, as you've been saying. It's just we need to know how to use it, right?
Yep.
Okay, that's really good. So in terms of that, let's do a little bit more and let's go more practical. We've been very practical. So let's say I'm a business owner, right? And I'm listening to you and you're talking about what you've done and what you can do with AI and the technology out there. What at this point in time, what should I be looking at automating in order for me to really get the business benefit in my business? So let's bring it home a little bit. Let's say let's go back to your agency idea, right? I'm a design agency. Let's say I'm building website, I am building graphics design and all those things. What should I be looking at automating first in my business in order for me to get the business benefit?
That's a very interesting question, and sadly, I would say it depends. No, but uh, no, but jokes aside, I think the answer would vary depending on the biggest time wasters, I will call it, or the time sinks
Time
that
waste.
the
Yeah.
that the businesses think. I think sometimes at face value, even if you take AI and technology at the moment, I think you sit down with the teams, and they're gonna tell you very quickly, I need to do this report. It's take me end of the month. It's like I need to go back and read all these feedback papers to consolidate to the slide deck. Boom. That's one use case, right? Or wow, it's so hard because every time that the teams do XYZ, I need to go back and revise because it's not at the level that I want. I will find, like, for me, a lot of things, like a lot of these pain points they're on the surface. It's just like capturing them and then finding what's the best tool. Well, I don't delve into tool. I think it's going to be obvious what I will suggest, but then finding what's the best tool to see if you can like do now more like automate these manual repetitive time sinks. Let's call it that way, right? I will start from that, because even from I think what works well, we as humans are very resistant to change. That's a reality.
Yeah,
It's weird, right? Because we adapt to change very quickly, but we resisted to it massively. Think about it, the pandemic. The entire world adapted to the new reality.
We did, yeah.
Right?
We did.
But then as soon as there's no more a pandemic, we went back like harder to our old ways, right? So it's like the whole dynamic. So now you put AI into the middle, and that's what it is. So I think it's one of the first things is to ensure that the teams see the value. So for me, it's more like simple. If you show your teams or you show the business employees that this is something helping you, like AI should be something helping you to be more refreshed at the end of the day when you come back to your homes and family, or actually gives you more time to think, to be more proud about the work that you do. For me, those are like the first things that you do. Again, there's plenty of frameworks. If this was more like a technical conversation, I will say, look, let's categorize things. It's a time, cost, revenue generation, things and things like this. But as simple, I think that's the first, I would say, like mental, very simple test, or the first temperature check, right? It's just like, just have a conversation with your teams and just jot down, because they're very obvious sometimes, like the very repetitive tasks that people
Yeah.
are tasks. They're most of the time going to be digitizing something manually, revising a bunch of transactions or data by hand, exactly, or visually, like inspecting things visually. There's a lot of things that are repetitive, right?
Yeah. Okay. That's good. So it's really just start with conversations. Just start with conversation internally and look what are the things that are time wasting, that are costing us, that are possible for us to automate that will save us time. But what if I'm on an organization that I've really we've had that conversation, but the data is messy and we don't really know how to put this all together kind of thing. It's like because as you said, the input is very important, creating the context of the LLM. But we've had that conversation, we think, oh, it will be useful for us to automate how we generate our reports. Now, where do we go? What do we do?
Yeah. So guess what? I'm gonna give you the answer with the same answer. You just told me where your first problem is. So try to find ways that AI can help you to organize your data then.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
know it doesn't sound obvious because it's like you think about again a spectrum here. I want to fix this, but I
Mm,
can't because the data is messy.
yeah.
But guess what? You just found the problem minus one.
Okay. That's
So
good.
maybe try to take all your data and do iterations with AI to find inconsistencies. And maybe imagine, oh, I don't have, again, I can think of an example, order taking, right? Suddenly you
Mm,
have invoices that you're missing out. But maybe you know that you're missing that invoice because there's a record of that, right? So maybe first step is how can I create the missing data that is missing,
mm.
even that it's as close as possible to reality, not fake data, but maybe like, okay, these are the elements. So at least you have the complete picture of something. And then, okay, let's start. Does that make sense?
Okay. We find out that, oh, okay, we have the information, we have the data, we know where all our graphics, for example, the previous reports that we've done before, we have a template for that. We've got that data. Now, nobody in the organization knows how to, what to do because we're not expertise in,
Yeah.
LLM. We don't know all these things. Can I just go to ChatGPT and just say, ChatGPT, I would like to automate our reporting within the organization. We've got our template, we've got some previous slide that we've done before and report before. Here you go. Help me to organize this and
Eh,
automate this.
Not
No?
quite. To be fair, I will say there's an individual called Pedro Lopez that he works in a startup called AISYNG. Like,
Yeah.
let me try to reach out to somebody to see if they can give me a perspective to see how I can solve the problem.
Mm,
Generally, I think that's the best approach at the
yeah.
moment when we're talking, obviously, as a business, because
Yes, of course. Yeah.
the challenge now it's with all that we discuss is there's an inherent way of like understanding the tools and the limitations and how you apply and all this,
Mm,
that it takes time. That's a reality. It's like learning AI from like 0 to 1 in 90 days.
mm,
You can understand how to prompt, you can understand how to use the basic things, but when you start going to more like deeper problems, it takes like you need the help of a professional. I know it sounds a little bit like I think saying it like that is it sounds more like in medicine or like in
yeah.
law, right? But
Speak to the
it's
doctor. Yeah.
but it's a reality. Think
Yeah.
about an area now that I've been studying a lot, like all the startups that exist and what are
Mm,
the fields, etc. Law is an interesting one, right? So you have creating legal contracts, right? Oh yeah, just I'm hearing more and more people say, oh yeah, just go to ChatGPT and create a contract, and it will do
mm,
an amazing job. Yeah, but the thing is, that expertise of it happens again with coding, and now it's a big term, vibe coding, right? Oh,
I've coding,
you're
yeah.
just gonna go to AI and build it up for me.
Yeah.
The thing is, the amount of things that you need to be aware of for that application, because it's not only to vibe code, but it's not only just to create the uh, create the contract for me. It's all the what ifs that you need to be
The
aware of,
process.
right?
Yeah.
In app development, it's like, okay, I did my app in this tool. Okay, great. Have you thought about how much it's going to cost you monthly? What happens if the server goes down at 2 a.m.? If a transaction fails, what happens if the records are duplicate? You see what I mean? How do you serve multi regions? Have you thought about like multi? This is just like a,
What
a,
is
a
all
couple
the
of things, right?
yeah.
And then even how do you critique that the AI did the whole architecture internal, etc., in a way that scales, that doesn't break, etc. Because now, if you want to build an app that is for your family, I don't know, you want to track your pets' feeding times or napping times, exercise, I would say, look, that's a start. But when it gets now like to proper scale, etc., there's professionals. That's why I mean now connecting of AI at work. That's for me the maximalist and the minimalist view, right? So what I'm just telling you is AI can help you at least to go from ideation to, hey, I have something that works and this is what I want. But we still need humans. It needs to be a team doing that. Does that make sense? So the same with lawyers, right? It's like, oh yeah, I can just take AI, put all the tax codes or legal rules of a country. But there's always the experience is what tells you that actually this 13 point B clause actually it's there, but nobody uses it. AI won't have that context.
So it's not really about, oh, we've got ChatGPT, we've got an AI. It can do everything for us. We can just ask it to do everything since it knows about everything. It's not about that. There is still some learning. There's some specialist skills that we will still require in order for us to really use it properly. Yeah, it may be good as a starting point.
It's almost like the packaging. It's like the way that it's packaged. Now, again, when we're talking in a professional environment, the way that we package it is really clear. I remember one of the things about the new EU AI Act. It says it very explicitly. It's like you shouldn't be using AI to evaluate like an individual performance, right? Because again, there's what ifs and repercussions. So imagine because an LLM told me that Bukola did XYZ, I took a decision and that turned out, let's say, into an outcome. I don't know. You're gonna be put on probation or in a performance improvement plan, something like this.
Context,
right?
You were saying it's very important.
Yeah, exactly. It's like there's an inherent bias. It's a like, was that situation properly evaluated? Like all the pieces weighted? If let's say whoever makes a decision does it just blindly, that can have like a huge backlash in the back. So that's why for me, I mentioned at the beginning is it can do a lot of things, right? And with agents now, what you just have is now that those manual works, you can have like things checking again. But think about like that scale of it. So that's why I mentioned that that specialist knowledge. Because it's only the specialist that at least can say, why don't we do it this way? And this is the sequence of steps, right? Rather than just AI in the wild doing whatever it wants.
Yeah. And even the specialists can teach you how to use the AI the right way, and how to actually get the best benefit from it. Okay. By leaning on what you're saying about how we use AI and the needs for especially in where it's necessary, especially when you're looking at deeper problems within the organization or within your work. So then, is it necessary for organizations now to start training, upscaling their employees, going back to work again, start upscaling people, or is it just enough for us to just, bring in somebody in? Is there even a need for any one of us to learn or upscale ourselves in using this AI or working with this AI?
That's a really good question. I have an answer that might be controversial or not.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm going to just make you the question away from there. Do you know how to use spreadsheets?
Yeah,
And
I
do you
do.
know how to use Word processors like Google Doc, Microsoft
Yes,
Word?
yes,
Okay. And PowerPoint. You know how to use PowerPoint, right?
yes.
Did you get trained by your workplace to learn those?
No,
No.
it was one of the criteria to get hired.
Okay, right? I think with AI, we're reaching that stage. That's why I'm
Mm,
saying it could be controversial, right? Because then let's just continue unpack, and I think the answer will be evident, right? Let's unpack the answer in a way that maybe people make the realization. I'm not gonna say one or the other,
of
right?
course, yeah.
Do you know how PowerPoint works?
In terms of technically or
Yeah,
just
yeah, exactly. Do you know the layers and like
not
how it
not deeply.
renders a slide, how when you
No,
copy
no,
and paste?
not
No,
deeply. No.
no, because 80% of the time, what you want is to do a slide
It's just to a
that
slide.
has a transition, the
Yeah.
fonts, etc. Right? When you are writing a document in a processor, you write it down, you make the paragraphs, you format your margins, etc. You put
Mm,
headings. Now it has like a, if you go to insert, you can put a table of contents. You have all those features, right? But you
yes.
don't know how they work. You
No,
just
just know
know
the
how to
content.
use them in
Yeah.
the right way that fits the need, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what I haven't. I mean, I think we're reaching that point, or we're gonna
Mm,
reach that point with AI. So it's like if we're in a continuum of time, maybe we are again. It's one thing what you read is again. There's hundreds of narratives here. I don't want to
yeah.
side with any now, but it's like there's a continuum of time, and I think look, it's 2026, right? This
Yeah.
January, so
Yes.
we're just like 4 years into AI being like mass market,
Mm,
right? In an era that there's a lot of opinions in social media, everyone has opinion, everyone has a
absolutely.
perspective, right? I think we haven't even reached the point that this is just like second nature that you just like have it everywhere,
Mm,
right? If you ask me like what my vision like for that, it's and yeah, connected to what I mentioned. Remember, AI is a tool that you can ask AI how to use it
to use.
properly,
Yes.
right? If you think about starting from that, do we need training or do we
Mm,
need access to it in a way that encourages limited curiosity? Does that make sense?
yeah. Yeah.
So now we're entering a little bit into like ethics, like workplace ethics, right?
Mm, yeah.
So again, just to tell my personal experience, I've had I paid for one of the pro versions of the LLMs, but I have like my personal one, right? That's like having my phone. That's
Okay.
how I treat AI, right? I have my personal paid version that I
Mm,
use it for my personal things. Now at work, I've had like a subscription provided by the organization. And for
yeah.
me, my mindset goes automatically switches to, oh, boom, you have your work
Mm, yeah.
tool and your personal tool. So in
Mm,
your work tool, you need to be conscious about what you do.
mm,
You see what I mean? So for
yeah.
me, that training is for me more critical. How you should do, how you should use the tool at work, as in an ethics training, than actually doing a full blown academy as a start. That's what I would say.
Okay.
Because the use cases will vary per department, per teams, per industry, etc.
I use.
So
Yeah.
imagine if companies now need to train their employees about AI, that means that every single company is becoming like a training academy of AI. I'm not sure that's very efficient.
Okay. So what you're saying is it makes sense for us to really have access to the tool, right? For example, if you're a business, you give your company, your employees access to the tool. And then depending on what the use case is, the employees and the business can start utilizing the AI for what they need it to be. I mean, the AI can even help you, train you on how to use it.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
before that, the ethical part. I think that's important. That's
Okay.
like what's the ethical way even to use the tool. You see what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. That's important. Yeah, that's something that a lot of businesses need to think about how we use, the AI within this
Yeah.
organization. And in that it goes into what kind of input we put, right? What kind of do
Yeah.
we upload documents, company documents, what kind of documents and all that. So I think yeah, that's really important. Back to what you said earlier about using the tool, the skill on how to use AI and what it is. You mentioned about PowerPoint and Microsoft 365 Alexa, for example, right? That's always a requirement for most jobs out there. You must be able to use Word, you must be able to use this. And now that's a tool, right? AI is also a tool, just like that we use to do other things. Do you think maybe now or in a few years' time, or are you seeing the trend that this is now becoming that requirement for people, for employees to have AI training? But then the question is, how then? What's the limit to learning? Is it just foundational AI, just be able to prompt? Or you need to know how to use AI to write this, or use AI for a specific use case? Are you starting to see the trends, or do you think that's going to be the case?
As a trend, I'm seeing more and more, and even our hiring practices. Like at the moment, everyone we're hiring on our company, that's like it's kind of like a mindset that you develop after you start using the tool.
Yeah.
Like you have a problem, think how you will solve it with AI first,
Okay.
right? And then you try to iterate your way, like you and AI together into that problem. And
Collaboration. Yeah.
yeah, like how do you collaborate with a tool? Because that means that if you don't develop that core skill, anyone with that skill will basically like outpace you like for a lot in terms of like I don't know how many multitudes, 5x 10x better, because it's going to be faster, more there's going to be literally more attention to detail, you're going to be able to cover more things in less time, etc. More exhaustive. That's what I want to find. However, you point at something very interesting. Where do I stop? Right? I think that depends in terms of your availability. What's the role that is? It's like if you're gonna be in a customer facing role,
yeah,
do you need to know how to code with AI? I'm not sure.
not sure
Right?
that's needed.
So maybe what you need to know is what's the best way that I can leverage AI to summarize my transcript of my customer calls. Maybe I want to look back at all the support interactions tickets that I've done or calls that they say, or maybe I just want to ponder with AI at the end of the week, have like a little check-in, me, AI, and all my supported documentation of my meetings, like what am I using wrong? You see what I mean? Like I think something like this can go a very long way. And you're actually using AI. And maybe you're gonna learn. I'm gonna just use the example, my journey with Excel. At university, yes, I used it. I mean, we all had to use Excel, all this. But when I joined my first role, when I was like 20, well, 21, 22, my first managers, because I was working in a very small team, and then like the CFO and my line manager, we all operated like a one unit. As a joke, in like a couple of weeks, I remember the first time that I saw a spreadsheet, they showed me this massive spreadsheet, like 20 megabyte Excel file, all groups, cells, colors, lots of complicated formats, etc. And then they were like, hey, look, welcome to the club. And they give me like 2 Excel books. It's funny because now there's like the Excel World Championships.
Really?
It's like a thing. Yeah, it's very interesting. I think they do it in Las Vegas, and it's like a proper competition.
Oh, wow.
I would encourage everyone to see it, right? Because imagine AI World Championships at some point. That can happen very nicely, right? Right?
Yeah.
Like you're like, what's the craziest thing that you can do with AI in 30 minutes? Yeah, maybe somebody takes that idea and develops it. I'm keen to.
Ideas, the idea.
I'm keen to be invited. But I remember that how much is enough, right? Those books I remember now, they taught you in a spreadsheet how to do maps. A map, yeah, you can do a
In
map
Excel.
in Excel. Yeah,
Okay.
think about it. What's a map? A map, it's a drawing. Every point is a drawing. It's in a 2D space, so you have X and Y. So the only thing that you need is to join points into. So if I remember very vividly, like there was like one state of one of the states from the United States, and what's a state is just hundreds of X and Y coordinates, and then you just join. So again, would you think of that to learn? No.
No, I would not.
Okay, So I
unless
think
that's my job.
with AI, that would be at least my advice. It's like, what's a core that you need to know very well, and then learning. That's why I meant before that. Imagine every company goes into a journey. These are the 100 things you need to know in AI.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that we can apply Pareto very easily to it. That 100 things, people are gonna just use 20,
Yeah.
and the other 80. So it's like being that pragmatic about it.
Yeah.
That I think is very important.
Definitely, we need to be very practical. That's a really good point. So there needs to be a cutoff point. You can't just go off and learn everything about AI, how it's processing the data. Just you need to understand the scope of your industry, your career, and the business. In fact, in order for you on how you can use it within your own scope. Okay, I think we can call it a day here, Pedro. However, before we stop, you've talked a lot about your journey of AI, the how people to use AI, the practicalities that business can, how practical people can use it within their own business, and we've come to in terms of training and upscale where to start from, and if you're to start. So now I want to ask you a question, final question, for an SME owner or business owner who's listening, or a leader listening and feeling, okay, I've heard you, Pedro. However, I still feel like I'm behind. I'm not really all these things that you're saying. I'm not even into it yet. It's everything is just overwhelmed. What is one thing they should stop worrying about, and the one thing they should focus on next?
I will refer back to our previous point. So I think there's a lot going on with everything. This is an industry that is changing like I don't know now if it's every 3 months, every 6 months, like the whole landscape,
Sometimes it seems like every
the
month.
whole landscape change.
Yeah.
But we just advise to be like very practical to within the how to call it, within my perimeter, like this is my industry, this is what I do. Maybe it's just a case of thinking, okay, what are people in my industry doing? What are people with the, I don't know, the jobs at like what are the things that my team do? Okay, what can I find related just specifically to that? And I would just keep it there. You see what I mean? It's like just maybe cut out the noise, focus on that signal, hone in on what's the art of the possible on my existing problems today, and gradually you grow, because one idea will take you to two more and three more, but it's more like keep it small for now, because I understand how overwhelming. I mean, for me as I would say a specialist to keep track, I had to build systems, and I totally understand. I totally acknowledge that. Like it got to a point that even for me right now, I had to create like my own personal tool. The things to be read, I send it to I send it to like an inbox, and then I have an AI program that I did that takes everything that I said and does a summary tailored to the way that I like to read and consume things, right? But that's me, because I need to be at the forefront to understand. But an SMB owner, hey, it's just your industry, right? So trust me, there's a lot of things that I even don't know yet, because that's not my day to day. So that will be my advice, is like not baby steps, but like try to be grounded on your industry, on your space, on your task, on the things that your teams are doing now, and just start from there.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's a good place to pause, really. That's a really good point. So if you're listening and feel behind or overwhelmed with everything that is going on, everything that we've discussed here today, so the point is really not to chase things or chase everything that people are saying or what you see out there, because it is changing rapidly. It's really to really get it clear on what actually matters to you within your scope, within your business, within your industry, and the reality of how you're working and what you're doing. Great. Thank you so much, Pedro. And this has been a great one. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.